Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the ninth live stream for Reef Automation. Today we have a special guest, and his name is Darren from Rogue Aquariums, and I'm going to bring him in right now. Hello, Darren.
How you doing, Derek?
Doing good.
Good. How's everybody?
So, Darren's here today to show us his 600-gallon reef tank. He's got a big boy, and he's going to show us off some of his automation that he's doing. We're going to go over redundancies, specifically in such a large tank. You got to have a lot of redundancies. Um, oh, I forgot. Today we are giving away a pH pen by Hannah. That's what we're giving away today. There she is. So, Darren, show us some of your stuff.
Sure.
He's got a lot of stuff. I
Well, let's
thought
go
I
from
had a
the
lot of stuff, but he's got a lot of stuff.
we'll go from the top down. How's that?
Okay.
All right. Good morning, everybody. So, welcome to my man cave. Um, what you're looking at here is my 600-gallon system. Um, it's an acrylic tank, which is the panels here are 1 inch thick on the sides. It's 4 feet front to back, and it's 30 inches tall, and it's 8 feet long. I'm just showing you guys a side view right here. I'll come over here. This is a peninsula style tank here that I've had set up since October of last year. Had a few challenges on it when I set it up, but kind of pulled through that. This rock art you see right here is all Carib Sea live rock, and I've got some these big arch pieces right here. These are called mega arches. I've got 8 of those, and the rest of it is your life rock here, smaller pieces.
So
In
the
the middle, right?
question I'm sure people
Sure.
are going to have is why we don't have any coral in there yet.
Well, I had a case of ick. I had a lot of my fish crammed up into my frag tank, which is to the left of this tank here. They got stressed out. When I wound up putting them in here, I had one of my tangs come down with it, and it was pretty virulent. So I went ahead and I just took all the rock out, and I let this tank sit fallow for the last 70 days. So actually, this weekend I'm going to start putting some coral in here. I'm going to put some zoas down here and see how they do.
Okay.
But that's a good question. I'm a big proponent of quarantining fish. Um, some people aren't, to each their own. But I've been through this. I've been through marine velvet twice now since I've been in the hobby in the last 5 years. So everything I get is quarantine, corals too. So and you can get lucky and never have any problem, but I don't want to take that chance again.
Yeah. Well, you have a quarantine tank now, don't you?
Yes, I do. Yep,
Okay.
I have a 75-gallon quarantine.
Perfect.
So up over here, this is my uh, this is my light rack. I'm standing here, so I hope you guys can see. Got my arms up here. This
Yeah.
is an 80/20 aluminum extrusion rack right here. So because of the garage door right here, I didn't want to hang lights down here and not be able to work on the tank because these portholes you can see are rather large. So right now, a friend of mine is in the process of making a couple of covers for the tank, so that I can, when I start putting the smaller fish in here, I don't have to worry about them jumping out. So um, as far as lighting, I've got Kessel AP700s going down the middle right there. I turned the lights on so you guys can see it. They're at 65% right now on the blues, and I'm not running any violet or reds at all. So I'm just running blues right now.
So show people your rail system, how that thing
Sure,
moves. That's
sure.
really cool.
So I just grab it right here and just pull it.
And the whole light moves.
The whole light rack moves.
That's really cool. I love
Yeah.
that.
So This is really handy to have.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So yeah, it's actually pretty strong. A friend of mine weighs 230 pounds, and he was hanging from there. So
Oh wow.
it's very strong. Over here on the T5s, I've got the Reef Bright fixtures. I've got them turned in on the reflectors right here, turned down in here, so I don't get any cast off over here. So I'm running 4 of these fixtures, 2 on each side over here. So what I'm doing is I'm running ATI Blue Plus on the inside, and I'm running Coral Plus on the outside right here. And at 11 o'clock, I've got 2 8-foot fixtures. These are the Reef Bright XHOs.
Eight
And
foot feet
eight,
fixtures, man.
yeah, these were special made here.
Yeah, tell me about it. I couldn't find 8-foot fixtures.
Yeah, they they're very expensive when it comes to shipping. So
Yeah.
let me climb up on the ladder real quick and kind of give you guys a bird's eye view.
So Mark had a question. Let me answer his
Sure.
question. So that's a really good question, Mark. I actually decided a long time ago to have one apex on all 3 of my tanks. Um, Terrence from Neptune has advised me multiple times that I should have a different apex on each tank. Um, I like having one apex, seeing all my tanks at once, and not having to switch between the two. So to answer your question, my opinion is to have one single apex so you can monitor all your tanks at once. But I think that's a personal opinion. Um, if you want to have 2 separate apexes, just know that you're gonna have to switch between them on the app constantly. So that's my opinion on that.
So over here, switching over here, I tried to keep the wires as tidy as possible. So these are the ballasts for the AP 700s. So I zip tied right to here. I cut some smaller pieces of the aluminum extrusion, and I just zip tied it together to the frame so I could put the ballast up top here.
Wow.
And there's a side view. These were especially machined out right here by Jason from Clear Fabrications, and these are hooked on by these little brackets on the other side.
It looks so good.
So
My favorite part is that you have your garage door opener just chilling right there, and
right there, yep,
it doesn't hit it, which is
it
just
doesn't hit it.
amazing.
Yeah, there's the view right there. So we had to do a lot of mock-up on this. So I could go in between this rack right here. I've got storage up here and the actual garage door opener itself.
Hmm.
You can see it.
How many watts of T5 can be on one outlet of the EB832? That is a really good question, Producer Reef.
Well, these,
Um, I don't have an answer for that actually.
well, a lot of people say that T5s are supplemental, and I, I disagree a little bit because these lights right here are 54 watts each.
Okay.
These between the XHOs and these T5s are putting out more wattage than these AP 700s.
Okay.
So, I mean, I guess when people talk about supplemental, they might say it's something they're using in addition to. But I find out for myself that these T5s really do a good job, and I use them in conjunction. I don't, you know, they give a better pop. They're down lower. They're about
Hmm.
5 inches off the top of the tank right here.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen mine. I have T5s and they're very supplemental. I think I have a blue plus and a purple.
Sure. Yeah.
The LEDs pretty much handle all the legwork, but they're 100% just supplemental. Um, to answer Producer Reef's question, um, I would have to find out how many you can put on there because I think mine's are 48 watts, and I have 2 plugged into one outlet with no problem. Um, I would
These are
assume
54. These are 54 watts each, and I've got 8 of them.
I would assume the ballasts handle all of the power management in terms of plugging it into one outlet. I think it would be fine. I would Producer Reef. I'd probably put it like on a strip, like I think Darren has there. I'd put them all on a strip, and then I think you could just plug it in. Just plug it in. I really don't see why that would be an issue. Um, how do you manage heat and humidity and heat in the heat and humidity and heat? So double heat in the summer from Reefing
That's a good.
Ravi.
That's a good question. Since I'm enclosed in here, the whole garage is insulated. I live in the Pacific Northwest, and unlike my friend right here living in the desert, I don't have to. He doesn't have to worry about heat. Um, the garage is insulated. The bay door is insulated. So before we moved in here, I used an oil-based primer paint by Bear, and I painted the whole garage, ceilings and walls. So it took me a couple of days to do it. So that way, if there is any
Yeah.
humidity on the walls, it won't leach right through. I
Yeah.
do have a dehumidifier
Oh,
that
that's
I
good.
run 24/7 in here, but right
Well,
now
that answers the question. There's your humidity.
I'm at 43% right now, and the garage is 71, and it's 46 degrees outside. So
Well, I have AC and heat in my garage, thank goodness. Yeah, in Arizona, there's really no chance my tank would survive if I didn't have AC in there. My garage, most garages here in Arizona get 140 during the summer. So,
wow, it's crazy.
yeah. How many gallons is the tank? It's 600, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
I have an expansion socket for Neptune systems. How would you use it? Hatfield, you'll have to explain what you mean by expansion socket. I don't know what that is. Yeah, Brian's saying it's pretty quiet except for the occasional humming from your MP60s. Yeah, those things
Yes,
are loud.
that's not my MP60. Actually, that's my gyre.
Oh,
That's on
okay.
my frag tank. I can turn it off. Let me look here.
Well, there you go, Brian. It's not as empty MP. I thought it was the MP60s also.
Okay, what you're hearing over here is that's this actual sump, and I'll get down to that in a minute. Here's the flow off of the MP60s right here. Now I have this halfway up here, but you can see the Vortec. Obviously, it's Vortec pump, but you can see what it's creating here, and that's halfway up.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
so I know. So what I do is I have two of the pumps on reef crest mode, and during the day I have them on lagoon, and then I'll switch them on continuous mode right here. What you're looking at right there, that is a spray bar. The holes are drilled at a 45-degree angle. It's 36 inches long. So we came up with this so there wouldn't be any detritus building up right in the middle right there. So if you look at it from this vantage point right here, it's taking all the sand and is pushing it out. And I was really happy that we went ahead and did this. Due to the fact is I don't want a bunch of detritus collecting in the middle.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you were
I
showing me that. I thought that was very unique. You don't see that very often.
right. So I've got plenty of swim throughs for the fish here, and structurally it's good. It's away from the spray bar right there, and it's structurally pretty safe. So I didn't use any acrylic rods or anything in here. The one good thing about this Carib Sea rock, it does stack very well. So that's one thing I was really happy
Hmm.
with. So
That's what I use.
yeah,
That's
and
exactly what I use, and I tell everybody the same thing. Use that stuff. That stuff is the best rock out there. It
I've got
really
to put
is.
some more. I've got to put some more sand in here, down here, and then raise this MP up a little bit because it's kicking out right here. So
Someone asked what drives the spray bar. We're gonna get to his plumbing. It's pretty insane in a bit here. Yeah, Mark S had a good comment there. Yeah, Mark, I live in Arizona. My garage gets about 140 during the summer, but I insulated my garage just with some regular insulation, and I got a split AC unit. I think it's a 24,000 BTU. I got it from a company called Ingram's Air and Water out of I think they're in Kansas, and it only ran me like $1,500, and I just installed it myself, and it keeps my garage at 73 all the time. So it can be done. It's not too difficult and not too expensive if you think about it. $1,500 for a 24,000 BTU unit is pretty darn good. And it's a split AC unit, so you mount the unit outside your house. And it works great for me here in Arizona. The rock is called Carib Sea Life Rock. That is the same rock I use and recommend to
Yep.
everybody. They come in shapes, they come in all kinds of different sizes, and what's really nice about them is they have built-in bacteria. So you put them in your tank, and it already has the bacteria ready to go, and it works really well for new tanks. Really, really well. I didn't get any algae. I'm sure you don't have any algae in there. Um, I mean, they're great. Let's see, desert palm cow. Yeah, Mark, here in Arizona, our summers obviously get to about 120 degrees. So trust me. I just did some insulation in the garage, probably similar to Darren, and insulation in the ceiling, and most garages are already insulated. So on the sides, and yeah, pretty easy. What T5 bulb combination do you recommend? Well, my question to you, Siraj, is are you supplementing and what type of coral you have? Because that's going to be the big answer to your question because T5 bulbs generally don't provide enough PAR, generally, I say, for most SPS. I mean, you're going to need some type of supplementation. Now, Darren's got a ton of T5s, so I don't believe you've checked your PAR. Is that correct?
No, that's one thing I haven't checked. It's
Yeah.
my to-do list. I want to buy a par meter, but it's going to have to wait for a while.
So when I turn off my LEDs in my tank, my PAR at the top is about 140 with just T5s. Now I'm using Blue Plus and Purple, which are a lower PAR bulb. They're actinic. ATI's actinic and ATI's coral white are much brighter than their blue and their purple, like I have. Um, but mine are mounted about 10 inches from the water. I think yours are mounted a lot lower than mine.
Right,
Um,
because my tank is deeper.
yeah. But I only get about a 140 par, I think Siraj was asking, and that is not enough for SPS. So I run my LEDs in conjunction, and then I get about 300 power at the SPS level. So I hope that answers your question, Siraj. What do you think, Darren?
I have rented a par meter before when I was just running the Kessel AP700 on my frag tank, which I'm standing in front of right now, and they had a little bit more of a higher par reading. But yeah, you're right. I'm curious to see what the par levels are going to be with the T5s on here, and the XHO's off and the Kessel's off. Since I'm running 8 bulbs, I was thinking about renting a par meter from BRS and just checking the
I would.
system out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I this weekend I'm going to be putting some Zoas in here and some other um, smaller corals to see how they're doing. And of course, I've got the Trident with your help.
Yeah.
I purchased that. That's really stable right now. Of course, my alkalinity is like 8.5, but there's nothing uptaking it. So, um,
Yeah, the hybrid method is fantastic. I see a lot of people commenting on it.
yeah,
You get
yeah,
the best of both worlds. You get the best of no shadow affecting. You get full, like Reefing Ravi just said, a blanket of light throughout the whole tank. There's no dead spots. And then you got the LEDs just to supplement to get the higher brightness where you need it. Um, Someone asked
right.
thoughts about upgrading your AP700 to the new Kessel.
No, sir. No, I just got this tank online the last 3 months, and I'm gonna I'm gonna go ahead and stay with the Kessels here, the APs.
So I have a par, yeah, I have a par meter. I bought one. I thought it was a valuable tool to have. Um, People can rent it from me for $10,000 if they want. 10,000. Give me 10,000, I'll give it to you because they're really hard to get, I guess, from what I'm hearing. I don't know if that's true or not. New reef breeder. My first fish tank is the guy's name. I've never. Welcome to the stream. I don't think I've ever seen you here, but
That's a friend of mine named Matthew, and
oh,
he's being funny. He's a good friend of mine.
okay.
He moved down to Palm Desert, and he's helped me a lot on when it comes to my system, when it comes to YouTube and everything like this. So he uh, he knows how much money I've got in here. So
Yeah. So, um,
I'll
yeah,
be right
we'll
back,
we'll skip that question. Hatfield, that's a good question, buddy. They are very good par meters. The problem is, they're not cheap, of course, and you have to have them hooked up to the Neptune system, and you got to move them around. Um, they're fine. I've used them before, but an actual par meter that I think it's Apogee or Apogee. I don't know how to say it. They really make the best par meters, so I would stick with them. Um, let's see. I think I got most of the questions here. So one thing I did want to talk about is redundancy in tanks. So um, my I have three fish tanks, as you all have probably seen, and I have redundancies on all of them. Um, one of the biggest redundancies, I believe, are your leak sensors. So all of my tanks have a number of leak sensors. And I think that's going to be your biggest redundancy in your fish tank. Another redundancy that I have talked about is a high and low sensor in your sump. Knowing when your sump is too high and knowing when your sump is low is a good indication that there's something wrong. That there's a leak, for instance, that your ATO is not working properly, that a pump is off. Generally, if you have a high sensor in your tank and your return pump shuts off when it's not supposed to or locks up, a high sensor is nice to have because then you'll know, hey, something's wrong with my return because I'm getting too much water in my sump. A low sensor is also really nice to know because then you know if your ATO is working. You know, So what kind of redundancies, Darren, do you have in this tank?
in regards to
Just any redundancies, like what if something was to happen? Do you have a redundancy for
I've got a full on Apex system. Yes.
it? So do you have any, you might have missed what I was saying, but do you have any leak sensors? Do you have, what if one of your pumps shut off? Do you have any type of physical redundancies? Anything that, like a float switch that will alert you if something happens? Anything like
Yes.
that?
Yes. I have four LD2 leak detectors, and I've got three optical sensors here that I'm going to be installing tomorrow on the
Okay.
system. So I've got those, and because I don't work from home, I work full time. I need to be in touch with my system. So I think that's really important to have redundancy on your tank, especially. Really, it doesn't really matter if it's a large tank or not, because when you wind up getting a lot of money invested in here, if you can't get to your tank, you want to have some kind of notification.
Right.
Send me an alert, in case something does happen or my ATO fails or whatnot. So
Well, Aaron had a good question, and I'm curious what most people think here in the stream. Because here in Arizona, this isn't important. Heater redundancy by using two heaters to back up. What do you think about that? I have one heater. I think it turns on once an hour, once a day, 365 days. I don't think it ever turns on, honestly.
I have an Inkbird there with a JBJ 1000 watt plugged into there. I don't have it hooked into my Apex.
Okay.
Um, so I have that on there, and it works just fine. I have it set at my low at 77. It'll have an audible alarm on here, so if something happens, my girlfriend's usually home, and she can notify me. But I don't have that hooked into my Apex yet.
Yeah. So a number of people are pretty much saying what I was saying. Redundancy for high and low sensors, I think, is huge, which you're doing with the optical sensors. Having the ability to know if your sump level is rising or getting too low, I think is a huge redundancy to have.
I
Um,
agree. I agree.
I think that's a big one. Leak sensors, like I said. If you want to spend the money on flow sensors, um, I think that's a good redundancy because then you'll know if your flow is going low or going high for some strange reason. Something got stuck in the pipe and your flow is starting to go down. That's a good way of knowing issues are happening. Um, let's see what else someone said. Flooding my bedroom because a 55 overflowed because the return got blocked by my eel. Yeah, so that goes to the sensor. If you had a high sensor in that tank, you would have gotten alerted right away, and you could have shut down your return pump. And that might have not happened. Might have not happened is the key word.
One thing I wanted to, I agree totally with what you're saying, and in my freshwater days, I didn't have the redundancy, and I had plenty of floods due to my own my own mistakes. So
Yeah.
uh, one thing I wanted to show on here is I went ahead and got these outlets right here. So all these are hot, and I have room for two more plugs if I need to. So one of the Kessels controls the other three. So I'm just using two of these for the Kessels here, and everything else is plugged in, and it comes down to this junction box right down here,
Oh, very nice.
right down here. So this allows me we, to go ahead and pull the entire rack over here. So I was trying to come up with something else, but this was the only thing I could actually get my hands on with this hose right here. That way, there's enough drag in here so I could pull it all the way over.
Right,
So
right.
I didn't want to put all these boxes down here with this junction box. So I put everything up here. This was the electrician that had told him what I wanted, and he made it happen. So
That's really
I'm
cool.
glad. And I have all these covers are sealed right here from the bottom. If you notice this foam right there, I put that in there so it seals. I don't get any salt creep. And these tops are fastened down, so
That's
I
really
can't get no
cool.
splash. Yeah. So
So
just one
someone
thing I
said
wanted.
that rack must be really heavy. Yes, I would.
Um, yeah, it is. But there's a lot of people that use this. On fan at Tidal Gardens uses this 80/20 for his stands, and he's got
Mm,
some 1,000 gallon tanks right there. And this stuff is very durable. It's very strong, and it's lightweight too.
cool. So do you have your Apex running all your tanks? Because that was another question someone had asked. Um, or is it just running the 600 currently?
It's just running the 600, and tomorrow I've got another EB8 with a PM1 probe that you sent to me. Thank you very
Yeah.
much. And I'm going to run my frag tank off of
the
my
the
Apex,
main Apex, right?
my main Apex.
That's
Correct.
what I think people should do. Terrence would disagree with me, but I think you should have one Apex running. I mean, why have multiple Apex in a residential setting? I just don't see the point of it. It's a waste of money. Um,
And what I wanted to say to the audience too is that my garage, the whole system is independent of my of the house.
right.
So I've got 20 amp breakers in here, so they're running completely independent of the house.
Yeah, that's what I did. I have all my tanks, well, except for my office tank, but my two tanks have 20 amp circuits separate as well. So show us under the hood under there. Let's see what you
Sure,
got.
you got it. Okay, right here. This sump right here is 60 by 42 by 20 tall. This
Oh
is a
my goodness.
218 gallon sump.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I've got it a third full right now, so it's approximately 70 gallons of water in here. So all these fittings here, these are scheduled 80. These are
Right.
CPEX ball valves right here. I don't know if the audience can see, um,
Yep, we can see
but
them.
I'm running. This is my ATO right here. This is a 68 gallon ATO, and I've got
Wow.
two of my Vectra L1s inside of here. I know they do run a little bit warm, so I've got them inside of here because I didn't have really much of the space. And I've got my Trident right here.
Yep. There
Right,
she
right
is.
here. So I'm running also a closed loop on here, hence the spray bar. So um, we fashioned everything here. We lowered this down and we fashioned everything here so it was pretty much level here. So I'm running 1.5 inch drains, and on my closed loop, I'm running 1 inch. You can see it come across here, and over
So
here is
clean.
my yeah. Thanks. Over here is my emergency drain right here. I've got this plumbed down into here, and coming on the end right here,
So nice.
I've got ball valves right here on each side of the closed loop.
Hmm.
You can see it right there. So I've got shutoffs for here on both sides, and I'm also using the KBI gate valves right here, so I can
For your
monitor the
drains.
flow a little bit better, right, on my drains.
Ravi, he's
So
using Vectras for his closed loop. Is that correct? Vectras?
that's correct.
Okay.
Yes, I've got one Vector L1 on my closed loop, and excuse me, on my return, and two on my closed loop.
Are you able to show them where they are? They're inside his ATO. It's pretty interesting how he did this.
Sure. Let me wheel around here so you can see.
So the vectors are a closed loop, but they're inside his ATO. It's really interesting how he did this.
Right. What I wanted to say right here is that uh, Clear Fabrications built this ATO. So he basically what he did is he blacked it out right here so it wouldn't bring in a lot of algae. And these are radiused, so I can see what the actual tank is right here.
Right.
What the level of the actual of the sump is.
Of the
Now a
of
lot
the
of people said,
ATO.
I mean, excuse me, in my ATO, and a lot of people say, well, why the condensation? Well, it's because I have the heat that these vectors are putting out, so you can see right down in here.
Yeah, that's so cool, man.
These lids,
For all you people out there, if you're if you're trying to figure out what this is, I will explain it again. Those are his closed loops inside his ATO reservoir. It's pretty neat. And you're saying it helps with heat dissipation, right?
correct, right? Well, the vectors do warm up a little bit, so I wanted them to stay cooler, and versus running them externally. So Jason from Clear Fabrication suggested that we run them in here. So I said that's a great idea. So these tops here are they're Lexan. Let me get
Hmm.
them right here, and they're recessed in. If somebody asked me, well, why do you have your Trident there? Well, it's not going to fall because these lids are recessed.
Right.
So they're very, and I've got flow throughs for the cords, the pass throughs right here.
Yep.
But the
That's how
really good
mine
thing
are.
is, yeah, the really good thing I like it is here, you can see what the water level is looking through here on both sides, so it's really nice. So
So do you have your ATO hooked up to your water container like I do that automatically fills it or no? Do you have to manually fill it?
no, I've got a ATK right here, version one. You can see it down in here. Let me pull this off again.
Let me rephrase my question. I'm sorry, Darren.
Yeah.
To refill your ATO container
Oh,
with fresh water, do you have something automated for that or do you do that manually currently?
I do it manually.
Okay. Yeah, mine
So
are hooked up to right to my ATO reservoir, so it's just an automatic thing for me.
here is
Um,
my these are my water containers right here.
oh my goodness. Tell
This
people
is my
how much those are, how
right.
many gallons those are.
These are 100 gallons each. They look a lot taller because I mean a lot bigger because they are
So
taller.
cool.
But these are 100 gallons each, and this is my salt and this is my fresh right here. And the plumbing, what we did is I have a Schedule 80 CPEX ball valves on each side with a 1.5 inch, and then I just went ahead and put an adapter right here. So I attach this hose right here and just run it right into the in there. It's not
Yeah. Darren,
automated, but
if you could back up just a tad, we're not seeing it, just so you know.
that better?
Yeah, it's a little better. Yeah, it's so cool, man.
How's that?
There you go.
There you go. So I'm just running a pan world pump right here. Um,
Right.
so and then I have the if I want to have water coming in, so you can kind of hear the flow right here.
Hmm.
Turn this on.
So out of curiosity, just because I'm crazy like this, how hard would it be for you to run a pump or an extension off of the pump into your ATO reservoir and then put a high-low sensor in your ATO reservoir with like a solenoid or something? So when the ATO reservoir gets low, it pulls water from your ATO or from one of these guys.
Yeah, I suppose I could do that. I'd have to tap into there to do it because this I have set up so it's it's manually done. I suppose
Right.
I could do that.
Just
Um,
curious. Those are
if I
Winesco or Nesco. The ones I have are the same. You can get them from tractor supply places typically. Someone was
oh okay.
asking where you get them.
So
Um,
if I want to flush water, pull water from my fresh into the salt, I just go ahead and
mhm.
open this up here, and turn this, and it pulls water right into here. And then I can go ahead and add salt again.
That's so cool. All right, Gary had a question, and I think I have an answer for him. What would be the pros of having separate Apex units? The pros for having a separate Apex unit, I would have to say, are if one goes down, at least the other one doesn't go down. Um, having one unit doing your whole system, you do have to worry about if the whole, if the apex goes down, all three of your fish tanks are pretty much down, or how many fish tanks you have. Uh, Gary, I really don't have a pro other than that. I've tried to think about this for a while. Why would I need three separate apexes? That means I have to program three separate apexes. I have to set up three separate apexes. I have to monitor three separate apexes. I find it easier just to have one. I hope that answers your question. What do you think, Darren? I don't see a pro of having separate units.
Personally, I think having one unit is adequate enough. But you're the
Yeah,
apex player. I just don't cost effective. No, not for me. It wouldn't be cost effective for me to do that. So you know, um, I'm just going to go ahead and run one of my the
right.
apex unit on the other tank here. So
What But
I just
then
want to show you.
we would have to move everything from one apex to another, don't we? Not necessarily. If you set it up correctly, you just label. Like mine, if you guys have seen mine are labeled office, reef, and fish. And I know which tank that is because I just label. Um, each probe can be labeled, so you would know what probe is what. So,
I just want to kind of let the audience know here too that both of these water reservoirs are sitting on this frame, and I can go ahead and put 8 containers underneath here of my salt. I use the Neo Marine Brightwell by Brightwell Aquatics. It's very homogeneous. It mixes very well, and it's the choice of salt that I use on the system.
Yeah, Darren's a big Brightwell guy. Show us your Brightwell wall.
Sure.
He's got a lot of Brightwell stuff.
Let me see here.
I'm sure some of you guys might have seen it earlier in the video, but yeah, he's got a lot of Brightwell stuff.
I use Brightwell Aquatics for everything on here. Um, kind of full disclosure, I'm sponsored by Brightwell, so I use it on my system.
Okay.
I like the product. It's works really well. One thing I wanted to tell some of the folks too is that if you're having an issue with any of the your algae, try this razor. It works very well. I know some of you can use different products for different applications, but this is a really good systemic cleaner, and it'll take GHA out. Now it won't kill it instantly like it does something else, but this is a lot more safer and it works really well. So I'm a big proponent of that. I
Yeah.
also use the Microbacter 7 as well as the Clean, and of course the Coral Color and the Vitamarin R
Mhm.
also. But there's some of a few products here, and then coming over here.
He's got a whole shelf more, guys.
I,
Yeah, I love it.
so
So, show us the board. We didn't get to see your board
sure, sure. Let me get over here.
because again, it's an automation channel, so we got to show the board.
Can you guys see? Okay.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
might
this
want
is
to
the
back
cabinet.
up a little bit so we can see
Sure.
everything.
So this is the cabinet I had built. As you can see, I've got the main unit right in the middle, and I've got these two EB8 bars, and I've got these extension cords. They're 1 foot ones. They're made by Neck Tech, so they swivel. So it's a lot easier to turn the plugs in different directions if I want to. So
Yeah,
I
those are
had to line.
nice.
Yeah, I've got these on here, but I had to label everything because somebody yelled at me because I didn't label them. So
That's correct.
I and right here I've got all three of my Vectra L1s right here in my display, and I've also got a Kindle Fire for display also. And right in the middle here, I've got an VDM module, an FFM, and I'm going to be putting two more FFM modules in there for the leak detectors as well as the optical sensors.
Very
Now
nice.
I'm just gonna two-part dose for now until I get a calcium reactor on here because I would have to use a lot of two-part for this system.
Oh
So
yeah.
my future plans are to go with a calcium reactor.
Okay. Yeah, for
So
that size of a system, I would have to assume you're going to need a calcium reactor. Um, People will argue on on a channel here, but I think at that size of a tank, you're going to be going through two part weekly. You're going to be filling up those, and then hell, you can get those 100-gallon jugs and sit them right next to your tank, and then do two part. But
I don't want to do that. I am using the Reef Code A and B on
right,
here from Brightwell, so that's what I'm using for two-part. But
that's
no,
a
that
good
would just take
product.
a lot. Yeah, so I am gonna I am gonna get a calcium reactor. That's in the works, so that'll be probably a few months down the road, but definitely will
Very
be
cool.
doing
Let's
that.
see. Let's see your frag tank and your QT tank, and he's got all
Sure.
kinds of stuff, guys. There
I just turned everything off here. This is my frag tank,
you go.
mostly LPS in here.
And I kid with Darren all the time. Like, I don't know how he's gonna fill that 600 gallon. I kid with him all the time. I don't know about anyone out there, but 600, that's a big tank to fill.
Yes, it is. It's a large tank, so I've got some. My lights usually don't come on until 11 o'clock, but I turn these on at 9 o'clock so they can kind of the corals can kind of puff up here a little bit. So that's my Acan alley right here.
Jessica's asking what kind of frag tank that is. I was
This
curious
is
as
a
well.
Yeah, this is an acrylic frag.
Is it a
It's a
custom
40 gauge.
made?
Yeah, it's custom made by Clear
Okay.
Fabrications, and it's 48 by 30 by 14 tall, and I've got Reef Bright, XHO,
Hey, it's
and the
us.
T5s on here.
Very cool.
And
Uh,
down below, just at a converted 40-gallon breeder, I turned everything off so it wouldn't be so loud. I've got a Vertex 130 skimmer here,
good
and
skimmer.
yeah, so I just converted this 40-gallon breeder over to this sump right here, and I've just got two filter socks down in here.
So nothing
Also,
fancy on your frag
yeah,
tank.
nothing fancy, but it works really well. And Jason at Clear Fabrications made this custom ATO. It fits right in here. It holds about 7.5 gallons of water.
It's
So I've
perfect.
got to fill that up today. And I'm running a Tunzi osmolator on here also. So um, tomorrow
Perfect.
I'll be cleaning all these wires up tomorrow. I'll be running. I'll put some starboard right here
And labeling
and,
them, of course.
and on the other side and labeling them. Yes, sir. So I'll put my EB8 on here and my PM1 module as well as this the M1 also here because I want to get these wires out of the way.
Mm.
I hate cords. So,
Yeah,
um,
people. I make fun of Darren because in my line of work, labeling wires is the biggest thing. So you'd be surprised if you have a lot of stuff like me and Darren have. It's really nice to know what plug is what. People always ask, why are you labeling your power wires? I'm like, well, what if I need to just unplug something or I need to know what it's plugged into? Having a label on that wire is huge. And I recommend it for pH probes, and I recommend it for any wiring, your FMM wiring, your optical sensors. Label them all so you know which one's which. you know.
yeah,
Um,
exactly. This is my
uh,
40-gallon quarantine. It's pretty simple. Um, I've got
Very
an
nice.
aqua clear hang on the back right here with
Nothing
a
fancy.
yeah, nothing fancy, and I've got an Aquamax 1.5 skimmer with a J-Bow PP8 right here. The frag rack was custom built. It's 3-tiered, and I mostly got LPS in here. I've got some Cyphastrias and Mystic Monty in the back right here, but
Very
I'm gonna
nice.
have to get a separate frag tank for my for SPS. So,
Is that
but
frag stand rhino lined? I don't know what that means.
okay. That's Rhino lined is this is the Rhino lined is something that you use in the back of your truck. It's sprayed on. This makes it impervious to salt. So all I can
Oh,
do right
okay.
here is take some if I want to clean it off, which I'll be doing tomorrow, is take some hot water, hot RO water, and with a brush and spray it in here and clean it right up. But
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
this will never rust. And the other thing, this has starboard in here, which also makes it impervious to salt water. That's what I'll be putting on the sides of the tank too.
Oh, very
So
nice. So
yeah,
someone had a heated question, or it's gonna be
sure.
heated. Corwin asked, "What kind of calcium reactor are you gonna be getting?" So I'm gonna let you answer that question. I'm gonna sit here.
Well, calcium reactor. I'm either going to get a Deltec or a Geo's Reef. So um,
Okay.
that's what I plan on purchasing. So got to do some more work, look into the cost on it because I know I'm probably going to be into it for quite a bit of money by the time I get done with the carbon doser and the actual tank itself and the setup. So I'm probably looking at what would you say, probably close to $2,000 when I'm done. So
Well, for
most
calcium reactor for your tank, yeah, you're gonna need something pretty large. Um, yeah, I think the carbon doser is a great regulator. I used it for many years until I got the ACR. Um, yeah, the tank, the CO2 tank is nothing. Really, the regulator is the most important. I think is the most important part of the calcium reactor because when that thing fails, that all havoc can happen on calcium reactors. Um, Geo makes wonderful calcium reactors. Most of them are custom built, so you could just call them and just ask them, "Hey, I want this and I want this," and they'll just make it for you.
sure.
Um, so yeah, I like the Geo. I don't know anything about the Deltec. I know people like the Deltec because it's automated. You don't need a regulator, you don't need pH probes, you don't need it. It just does everything like the ACR that I have does. It's going to be an interesting conundrum when it comes time to purchase it for you,
No,
because
it's I have to look at cost also too. I mean, a lot of people say, well, you know, is the tank expensive? And I tell people it's not the the box that you're paying for, it's what you're
Mhm.
putting in it and around it. And someone asked me how much I've got in it, and I said probably the amount of a pretty nice sports car. So
Yeah.
you know,
Anyone else
so
have a zero water change tank? All of my tanks are zero water change. I assume he means not doing water changes.
oh, I do
So,
what?
um, I don't do water changes. I don't. I'm sure everyone knows that. Um, there's many people that don't do water changes nowadays. With our filtration the way that it is, um, I haven't seen a need to do the water changes. But that's just me. Everyone has their own opinion on this. And I'm dosing trace elements correctly. I'm dosing aminos. Um, I mean, what more do I need to do, right? I have my calcium reactor, the Trident monitors everything. Um, I've always thought a water change is necessary only when you have a problem, you know. Now I do have a what's the word? I do have something I can say, however, against that, which is if you are a new reefer and you haven't been doing this for as long as some of us have, I do recommend water changes. I recommend doing them often, especially if you're a new reefer. Um, I definitely recommend them. Uh,
One thing I wanted to say is that I'm used to doing water changes. My background's in freshwater, and I used to raise Central and South American cichlids, big tank busters. I've been on the saltwater side for the last almost 5 years. Um, Unfortunately, I cannot do automatic water changes because we're on septic here, and
right.
I don't not want to run saltwater in a septic tank. So,
No.
so what I do is I run a hose out into a culvert here, which is about 50 feet from me, and
Okay.
I run it down. I run it down in there.
I see. Yeah, I did have an automatic water change set up on my reef tank for a while, and what I noticed was my nutrients would just keep going down and down and down, and I couldn't keep the nutrients up. Once I stopped doing water changes, nutrients have been stable and have been high, and I'm seeing more coloration out of my corals. I'm seeing more growth out of my corals. I believe personally that corals need all the junk that's in the water to thrive. So I've never believed in water changes. That's just my opinion. If you can supplement everything, um, like I said, with trace elements with what they need, then I don't see the need to do water changes. Um,
I dose
let's
aminos on my corals,
mhm,
riboamino every day. I also dose some of the other trace elements too,
right.
uh, but I do use the aminos on the coral aminos
Mhm.
daily.
Brian had a good question. Do you really need to spend money on the carbon doser? Um, I will tell you that the carbon doser is extremely well built. The cycles that it can turn off and on, I don't know how many cycles it has. Thousands. I had a carbon doser on 2 tanks for 5 years, never had a single problem. I had that thing shutting off and on almost every 10 seconds to keep my pH exactly pegged at 6.5. I would have it turn off and on at 6.5. Um, Never had a single problem with it. So to answer your question, Brian, I don't think you really need to spend the money on the carbon doser, but if you want to have a perfect internal pH on your calcium reactor, I definitely think a carbon doser is the way to go. That's my opinion on that. Very little problems with it as well. What equipment do you use to dose your trace elements and aminos? Brian, if you take a look, I think at my second video on my reef setup, I use a dose for both of them, Neptune dose.
And that's something I'll be using on this too. Like
Yeah,
my coral aminos, I'll be dosing with that.
yeah. Um, that's a good question. You're going to need a lot of coral amino.
Yes, I will.
You must have the hookup for large amounts of that because they come in these little tiny bottles. Yeah.
They come in these bottles too,
Oh,
the
they
big
do.
ones. So yeah,
Okay.
I actually keep my coral aminos refrigerated too. It'll You don't have to; it's not a requirement, but
Yeah.
it will keep the potency on them for longer if you keep them a little bit cooler. And also, a lot of their products, especially the new Start XLM, you don't have to keep it in the refrigerator if you don't want to. Um, it's also got a wider range than other bacterias. It can take degrees up to 80, where I know Fritz has a 15 to 16 degree range, and that's it.
Oh, okay.
The good thing I like about the Start XLM bacteria is that you can refrigerate it or you can keep it out in the open, which
I
is
see.
nice, up to about 80 degrees.
Yeah, so me, and I'm old school. I've been doing this for a long time. I know I'm young, but I've been doing this since I was, yeah, 5 years old. And I'm old school. My go-to is Biospira, and it always has been. Biospira has been my go-to bacteria since early 1990s because that
I
stuff's
use
been
by
out.
I use Biospira on my Central and South American tanks when I had
Yeah.
freshwater.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean that's been around forever, and it's always worked for me. Brian's asking what coral amino do you use? You use coral amino. That's what actually it's called. Is
right.
that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll get a container and show it, folks.
Manufacture of trace elements. I use Tropic Marin A and K, I think it's called. Would you recommend dosing individual trace elements? There it is, coral amino in a big bottle. I don't know where this guy's getting that. Let me show you my coral amino bottle. Hold on. Here's my coral amino bottle.
I
um,
also have I also have the smaller one right here.
yep, that's the one
I just use this as a refill.
yep,
So
that's what
this is
I
the one
got.
I use. Yeah, with the dropper.
Yeah. Desert Reef Aquatics had a good question. What do you recommend dosing individual trace elements or using a number 28 block? Okay, so here is my opinion on dosing trace elements. If you have the money to spend on ICP testing, dose individual trace elements. If you don't have the money to do ICP testing, do not dose individual trace elements. Um, Dose based on what the recommendation by the manufacturer is. So what I mean by that is that I've sent in, I don't know, 20 ICP tests because I had a bundle of them, and I know exactly what elements I'm losing on a daily basis because I send an ICP test in 1 week, I test 7 days later, I send another one, and 7 days later, I send another one. People think I'm crazy, but that's how you're able to know exactly what trace elements your tank requires and needs. Um, my recommendation to Desert Reef Aquatics is there are products out there like Miracle Mud, for instance, that I use. There are products out there such as um, ABC. I'm assuming Brightwell has something similar to that, where it has trace elements as well, where it's a specific amount. If your calcium goes down this amount, you dose this much trace, and they have a calculation based on that. Red Sea
Yep.
has something like that too. So um, I know what he's talking about, the number 28 block. It's a good product. It'll do very good for calcium, but the problem is that 28 block has no way of doing anything for your alkalinity. So you're still going to have to use some type of alkalinity supplement with the 28 block. Are you familiar with the 28 block, Darren?
No, I'm not.
Okay. So they make it's a company that's been around for ages. It's a little white block and it dissolves in the water and it supplements calcium and all your trace elements. It's pretty interesting how it works.
Hmm. Okay.
So,
Yeah,
but
I've never heard
again,
of it before.
if you're not dosing alkalinity, it's worthless. So just keep that in mind. Um, how often do you dose? So reefing Ravi, again, I did a lot of ICP testing, so I was able to figure out how much I need to dose to keep everything stable. So I'm dosing daily trace elements. Most people do have to dose daily trace elements. However, you can dose weekly trace elements and be just fine. There's no reason to dose it daily. Everything is big for this guy. Yes, Darren, everything is big for you apparently. You have 100-gallon drums. You have coral aminos the size of.
Yeah,
um,
I had to upsize everything, especially going with a system this big. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he brings up a good point, Gary. He's got a very large system, so you got to remember when you have a system that's 6 times the size of most of our systems, he has to go 6 times larger than most of our systems. I have a 100-gallon tank. He's got a 600-gallon tank. So go big or go home. And it's going to be interesting when Darren starts to put coral in there because I'm going to be I'm going to be messing with him, going, "Hey, how's that little frag doing in that 600-gallon tank?"
I know. Some of these acan colonies that you saw in my frag tank, they're about the size of my hand.
Yeah.
They'll be going in there too
And they'll
once
look like nothing. They'll look
they'll
like
probably look
nothing.
really real tiny. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Not
you
easy
know,
to maintain large tanks and mounting corals. Ravi, I know I think Ravi has 1,000 gallon tank. I'm pretty sure he has 1,000 gallon tank. Um,
nice, nice.
I actually disagree with him. I think it's actually easier to maintain a larger tank. Um, I think it's much easier to maintain a larger tank because the fluctuations are significantly slower than in a smaller tank. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think you can hold your parameters easier once you get set up with a larger tank. And if something does go sideways on you, you'll get more of a chance to take a look at it and figure out what the issue is and fix it versus having a smaller tank. Say, for example, a tank of 40 or 50, 60 gallons.
Yeah.
If something goes sideways in there, it's going to go down faster than it would a larger tank.
Yeah, so get
However,
this.
you know,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
however, there's also cost involved too. On a larger system, if something does go sideways on you, it's going to take more to fix it.
Yeah, I think Ravi just mentioned that. Um, so get this. This is no joke. So I have it's 7 gallons of water in my 10 gallon innovative marine tank over here. The salt was high. It was about 36.7 or something. So I wanted to lower the salt. So I was like, okay, this is only 7 gallons, right? I took a cup of water out of this thing and it lowered the salt like 0.5, just a cup of water. So, yes, I agree with you, but when you have such a little tank, also on the complete opposite spectrum, any little tiny mistake you make and you're crashing that tank. You're crashing it. So, I think Ravi was saying, yeah, when it goes south in a larger tank, it's much more difficult to bring it back. And that's why we're talking about redundancies. Because if you have redundancies in place, that stuff won't happen. If you have a high sensor and low sensor, you'll know your ATO is doing something funky. You can stop it before it happens. And that's why it's so important. Let's see what he said. Something shows it's going sideways. It takes a lot more to get it back. Yeah, again, if you can stop it before it happens, that's the key. Absolutely. Let's see. Anything else
It is.
cool you want to show us in your garage there?
No, not right now. I don't
Okay.
have anything cool in here. What I wanted to say is too is that a lot of the corals I'm bringing in, I'm going to be propagating myself and then selling them up here in the Pacific Northwest. So I'm not
Oh,
shipping
cool.
right now, but I'm not going to be somebody that's just going to come in here and be a chop shop. I want to try to grow things out, aquaculture it myself, and then go ahead and propagate it, and then frag, and then go ahead and sell it from there.
Very cool.
But I do have a lot of these pieces here that will be for sale. So if anybody's local up here in the Pacific Northwest, they're
Yeah.
welcome to go ahead and reach out to me. But
I don't know.
no,
I'm trying to see anybody in the chat from the coronavirus capital of the world. Let's see. No, no one's. I know a lot of these people are in Florida. I know most of these guys that are in here. But that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I never built a frag tank. I never thought that I would need one. And now all my corals are starting to get huge. I'm like, what am I gonna do with all these corals? So I don't know. Maybe I'll start giving them to people. Restock. I'd love to restock my tank from you, Darren. Someone just said.
great.
Uh,
Just go ahead and reach out to me, and we'll see what we can do for you.
and you have a YouTube channel as well, don't you?
Yes, I do. It's Rogue Aquariums. That's
Okay.
my YouTube channel, and also my Instagram.
Oh, terrific.
Yeah,
Someone asked, just got set up with a 350 gallon holding tank. Oh my
nice,
goodness, people.
nice.
Where do you have room for this stuff?
Wow.
Oh,
Yeah, my first saltwater tank I did was a 300 I had left over from my freshwater, and it was a Fowler, and I wasn't going to be doing corals at all. And then my the owner when I LFS has said, "Oh, you will." So I wound up about 6 8 months later doing coral, and I absolutely love corals. So
Yeah, I've been, man, I've had so many different fish tanks. I've lost count. It's the
yeah, me
same
too.
amount of
Me too.
cars that I've had. I've just lost count. But I was never into corals. Um, I'm sure you've seen my 300. It's all fish. I was always
Yeah,
into fish.
very
I'm
nice.
never into corals. And I don't remember when it happened, but someone showed me a clam one time. And I was like, oh, that thing's really cool. I'd like to have a clam in my tank, my fish tank, keep in mind. And then they're like, no, you can't put that in your fish tank. It'll get eaten. I go, well, what do I got to do? Well, you got to make a separate tank for it. So I bought a BioCube, a 26-gallon BioCube, and put a clam in there by itself. And that's how I started with reef tanks. And then they're like, okay, well, what else can I put in here, right? So I think about, oh, I could put shrimp in here, right? Because there's no fish to eat it. Oh, I could put hermit crabs in here. This is really cool. And then I was like, what's that thing that's just sitting there not moving? They're like, that's a coral.
Yep.
What? What's a coral? And then I was like, oh, can I put that with my clam? Yeah, you can put that with your clam. All right. So that's how I got started.
I
Um,
really do. I really do. Like fish a lot. But I'm really getting into different types of corals. So
yeah.
it's true. There's an addiction, that's for sure.
Oh
So
yeah. Once you get going. All right. So we got to stop for a second. We have a number of people that have entered this contest. However, a majority of them haven't even asked a question or haven't participated. So a gentleman by the name of Keith Singer needs to participate.
I'll be
Everyone else
I'll be
has been
I'll be right back.
participating. That's cool. So anybody have any questions? Well, we're gonna close this up pretty soon here. Again, we're giving away a pH tester today. Nothing crazy like last week. So let's see. I got everybody entered into this contest. Thank you everybody for coming today. Um, let's see. Looking at any other questions we have. Start giving away coral frags. Um, I can't ship coral frags. I think you have to have a license for that, Robbie. What else I'm gonna do? Can't go anywhere. Well, Desert Reef Aquatics. You have any questions for me today? RO flush ideas. Keith, I use uh, an auto flush by Bulk Reef Supply, and that seems to work really well. I've been using it for years, and I use SpectraPure filters for everything. Um, yeah, see, Ravi, I can't. Even if I was to give away corals, I still couldn't ship them. So that's the problem. But I have been giving away gift cards to Worldwide Corals and gift cards to Top Shelf. So that's like giving away frags. If you want to talk about the programming of when your optical eyes get blocked at the same time because of algae. Okay. Yes. It's very important that your optical sensors do not be in the sump where there is light, where there is any type of dosing. Do not put your optical sensors if you are calc dripping, for instance. Make sure those optical sensors are in a location where they have plenty of flow and no dosing or light. And then you wouldn't have to worry about the algae, Brian. Can we use a three-way solenoid to flush and connect to Apex? I guess you could. I think the auto shutoff is, or the auto flush by Bulk Reef Supply. I think it costs $50. Three solenoids connecting to your Apex would be about $90. So I think the auto flush is easier and better. Are you using any flushing system, Darren, on your RO system?
I do have a flush on there that's built into it, but I'm running the bulk reef supply with the water saver, so
It's
it's 150
automatic.
gallons. Yeah, it's automatic,
Yeah.
um, so I can do 150 gallons a day. So we're running a 7 stage right now.
Yeah, that's how I do it too. I think that's the right way to do it. All right. Any other questions, guys? I think we're at about an hour or so now. Look at that. These streams just keep going and going and going. I try to stop them and I can't. How many people use large RO systems? Oh.
Just want to say the RO, the ATO, actually the ATO sump that I've got on there right now, with the temperature outside, I can get about 12 to 15 days out of there.
Wow.
I'm running about 4 or 5 gallons of evaporation out of the tank, out of the sump per day, and I know in the summertime it does get warm up here. It gets to 90, 95 in the summer, so it'll probably be a lot more evaporation.
So I got a question for you. What DI resins are you using? Because I started using those SpectraPure ones that I have, and they're lasting longer than any resin I've ever used. I've done about 200, I've almost done 300 gallons off of these resins, and not a blip. No TDS, not a blip. 300 gallons.
Right. Well, I'm running my TDS in and out right now is one or two. Um,
Okay.
One going in, two coming out. So I'm probably going to go ahead. I'm running the mixed bed on there. I've got two of them. So I'll probably have to go ahead and change it. But I don't think having one TDS is bad,
Yeah.
personally. So,
Yeah, I really like the SpectraPure ones. I bought a bunch of them, and I'm sure I've said this before. SpectraPure is a 15-minute drive for me, so I just can go over there and pick them up whenever I need them. So
yeah, I've heard some really good things about SpectraPure. They're pretty much
yeah,
top notch when it comes
yeah,
to that.
yeah. Kirk, welcome to the stream. We are pretty much almost done here, but I just purchased a new 120. What size return pump would you suggest? That's a tough question because it depends on your plumbing, depends on
Your
how
budget.
your budget too. I don't think about that sometimes. I just get whatever the best is. Anyway, uh, you should be fine with a core 10 or a core 15 or 20. But again, Vectra M2 would probably be good for you. I don't know, man, because it depends on all your plumbing, really. That is the only way to tell what your head pressure is, what your plumbing is. When you turn it on, if you're getting nothing coming out of the return, then you know you don't have the right return.
Right, and that's why I chose to do a closed loop on this system here, because I don't have hardly any head pressure at all.
Right.
So that's why I decided to do that. When I got into this hobby, I was running the JBL RW20 power heads on the 300, and that was an
Mhm.
8 foot long tank, and they were fine. And I still have them as a backup if I had an emergency. And I've actually given one to a friend of mine to use before. Um, Me personally, I would rather pay the extra money to have better equipment. That way,
Yes.
I don't have to have it worry about it breaking down. Don't get me wrong; anything is going to fail in
Hmm.
time, no matter what it is. If it's got components to it, it will fail.
Yeah.
But I think buying quality and paying a little bit more money for quality, you're going to come out in the better end of it.
Yeah. What I always tell people in this hobby is if you spend the money on something that's going to last longer. I mean, that's
Right.
really what it comes down. This hobby, there's so many companies that make so many things that are junk. And if you do not want to spend the money, you're buying junk and just plan on replacing it sooner. That's about all I can say about it. It might work really well for the first couple of years and then all of a sudden just die on you for no reason. And it's the same thing in my business. I sell home electronics. It's the same thing. You buy a Hisense TV over at Costco compared to a Samsung. Take a guess which one's going to break first. I mean, That's just
True.
how it is. You spend the
I think
money on quality. It's the same thing in this hobby.
same thing in
So,
cars.
same thing in cars. If you get a Kia Sorento, plan on fixing it a few times. I mean, that's what happens. It's unfortunate, but electronics, in our hobby specifically, I say this all the time, we have products that are not meant to go in water sometimes, that sometimes get water on them. And there are products that are able to handle it just fine, and there are products that just won't handle it. So just always keep that in mind when you're buying something. Ravi had a really good point. Buy a larger pump, which I suggest, a much larger pump, and dial it down, especially if it's a DC pump. Because then, when Kirk decides that 120 is too small, he has a return pump to put on his 150 or on his 200 that he's going to buy in about 5 years. You know, so that's my opinion on that. Um, all right, so it's time for the fun. So let me switch you over here.
One thing I will tell the folks on this tank here is that Clear Fabrications built this tank for another client back in June of 2013. And I talked to Jason and tell him I wanted to go with like a 375, kind of be my last big tank. And he called me up and said he had a client that wanted to get rid of it. Well, he didn't want to put a sub panel in his wall. That's why he decided not to set it up.
Hmm.
So I picked it up for half the price. So I sold something that was kind of near and dear to me, which is my motorcycle. But
Oh, that's
I,
right.
yeah, I managed to purchase this because of that. And if this had to be rebuilt today, it would be about double the price of what
Oh
I paid for it.
boy,
And
that's
I got
Clear
the
Fabrications. They're out in Washington, I'm assuming.
yeah, they're in Seattle on Facebook. You can see them at Clear Fabrications.
Okay.
Incorporated, and you can get hold of Jason there. He's the proprietor. He ships out anywhere in the United States.
Oh,
He
wonderful.
builds. He's a great welder. He does stands, sumps, ATOs, frag racks, anything you want acrylic he can build.
Terrific. Yeah, I might actually need something coming up here. I might need a little ATO for my Nano. It's really hard. I don't know if you saw my video on the stand. The stand is awful. Like you could barely
Yeah,
fit anything in the stand. I need
yeah.
something very skinny that I can fit in there.
He made that small ATO for my 40-gallon,
Yeah.
my sump right there, right next to it. I squeezed it in there. So
So, all right. So, as people can see on their screen, this is the people that I've entered into the contest for today. A lot of repeat customers. I'm glad everyone comes to my streams, so I appreciate all the support. Uh, Kirk just slid right in there at the end, but I'm gonna let him enter this contest. It's not an Apex EL, for instance. Um, on your little tank, did you see my post about using your existing Neptune ATO to keep it topped off? Yeah, Brian, I might have to talk to you, PM you on this because the problem with doing that is my Nano is what has my high and low sensor to do the auto water change between my 100 and my Nano. So I have no idea where I'd put the ATO sensor because there's a high and low sensor doing auto water changing. So I've been thinking about this. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know if anything that I just said makes sense, but um, that's the issue. Myers. More than likely, if you're not on this list, it's because you didn't say I love Reef Automation, because that's how I do this. So I'm assuming Myers Reef did not say I love Reef Automation, which is probably why he's not on the list. The same thing with Gary is my assumption, because that's how I do these lists. Um, just so you guys know. And again, I am not sponsored by anybody. Most of this stuff is from my storage bin, or I just decided to give stuff away because I'm a nice guy. So
Very,
Just
very nice.
just want to let you guys know I'm not sponsored. I know I wear a Neptune shirt every stream because I love Neptune, and they gave me these shirts when I saw them at a show. And since I'm a control freak and I've been on their show, they gave me a shirt that says Control Freak. So I'm not sponsored by anybody. I just want you guys to know that. Um, yeah, Corwin, my chat wasn't working, so don't worry about it. I got you. All right, so this is for a pH probe tester thingy majiggy. It is made by Hannah. I don't use it ever, so that's why I'm giving it away. It is used, but I will include some packets with it. Um, Calibration packets, right, Darren? And
Yep.
I have a ton of them, so I will get that out. So if you're not on the list, now's your last chance. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. This stream's been going on forever, and I'm sure Darren wants to sit and relax on a Saturday.
Yeah, I've got some things to do here.
Yes. So Darren, again, really appreciate you being on and showing us everything. Um, really like having you on, show these large systems. And once all your automation is complete, definitely send us some pictures because we want to see all your cool stuff you're doing.
Sure, will do.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, here we go. The winner today is Hatfields Reef again. Congratulations, buddy.
Cool.
He won, I think, the second week or the third week. He won,
Uh,
I think he won he won the BRS $50 gift card. So congratulations, buddy. Hey, Jessica, I can't help it. It's a random picker. So anyway, again, thank you everybody. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Also hit the bell icon so you're notified when I do my live streams. Typically, they're every Saturday morning. I've had people on the last 2 weeks. I might go back to just doing a programming only stream next week. I haven't decided yet. But I'm always going to try to give stuff away until I run out of stuff or money. Um, because with this whole flu thing, a lot of us are struggling. So if I can help anybody out there, enjoy their reef tanks in any way I can, I will. Um, Darren, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate you showing everything to us, showing off your stuff. I definitely want to see some coral in that tank pretty soon here. Um, I do highly recommend for my own hilarity to take a picture of one frag in the tank
I will do that.
because I want to see what that looks like.
Sure.
But yeah, thanks again, everybody, and thank you for coming to the stream today. I will see you next weekend.
Thanks, Dirk.